this morning, Deputy President William Ruto on Saturday suspended logging in all forests in the country for the next 3 months, 90 days in total, as water levels in major rivers countrywide continue to drop to alarming levels. And this is the main discussion now, that ban on logging. To help us with this discussion this morning, we do have Charity Munyasia, Deputy Chief Conservator, Forests, Natural Forest Management and Conservation. This is the Kenya Forest Service. Karibu sana, it's good to have you in studio. Next to her you have Cornelius Chipsoy, environmentalist and water sector consultant. Good to have you, sir, as well.
It's a pleasure. Last but not least,
we do have Masi Wanjaka Rundito, Senior Program Officer, Greenbelt movement associated with the great Wangari Maathai, who is an icon in as far as environmental, watching the environment. Now, this ban, of course, has been welcomed by many. People are saying that it's been a long time coming. Probably it should have happened earlier, and probably it should be more than 90 days. Do you agree? Let's start with you.
Thank you. The ban, yes, is there, but Kenya uses the plantation forestry, and I'm very clear here, plantation forestry, that is where we get our raw materials for construction industry and manufacturing industry. And the government gets 2.8 billion per year from that industry. The ban, as Kenya Forest Service, we welcome it, and we are waiting for next directive from our ministry. And as foresters, we are saying a tree as use, whether cut or standing. So even though the ban is there, the trees which are still standing, they are having their ecological uses and they are helping the Kenyans.
Yes. So probably for Kenyans to understand, it is not totally wrong to cut trees. There are reasons why we need to cut trees, but probably the system of replenishing the same, because it's a resource that we need. And yes, in as much as we may need it to produce some things for the construction industry and other things, we need to replenish the same. Is that where the problem lies, that we're just cutting down, not replenishing?
Thank you. First, it's a good thing to hear it from KFS that they are not opposed to the ban, because that's important. And I like what she said, that the tree standing or cut has a lot of value. So first of all, I think as a country we must accept that we have behind schedule in terms of our forest cover, and we need to do a lot more. And not just forest cover, even general tree cover on our land, so that the discussion is not just centered on the trees in the forest, but generally what we understand as the importance of trees. There are so many places that need to be conserved, wet areas, and I mean wetlands in people's farms, in public utility, public land and other places. So yes, we are behind, and I think perhaps as we go deeper into the numbers and with the help of KFS, we might want to understand why these trees are not being put back, or is it that they are also experiencing problems from the people who are on ground.
Okay.
Obviously, of course, this is also a very large piece of land, and it might not, the entire responsibility of making sure that we have forest cover should not be seen in light of KFS alone. I think everybody has a role to play.
Okay. And one of those people is the Greenbelt movement. You've done a lot in as far as even educating the masses, even advocating for more tree planting in as far as forest cover is concerned. But now talking about the numbers, what is the required cover for a country like Kenya? And where are we? Are we close to achieving that? Are we far off? Where are we exactly?
Thank you. Just to bring to your attention, the Greenbelt movement is celebrating 40 years since it was founded. And our core mandate has always been, and will always be, environmental conservation, community empowerment, for them to have improved livelihoods. And we have been mobilizing communities to plant trees on their farms, on the riparian, and most importantly, on the catchment areas. And when we ask where we are in terms of conservation, the last report we've had from the Kenya Forest Service is we are at 7.5 tree cover. Forest cover is different.
Okay.
We may have moved from 1.7, but we are not at 10%, the requirement by the UN standards.
The 10% is what is required.
It's what is required by the UN standards.
That's tree cover.
That is the forest cover. Forest cover.
Okay.
And we don't want to ignore the fact that the timber industry, even for the Green Belt movement, we recognize that it is important and that it generates a lot of revenue for the economic development for the country. But we also applaud the move that was made by the CS, the Deputy President, His Excellency, Deputy President William Ruto, that we hold for some time the logging, the harvesting of timber. So that will stop the damage for now. That is important. But again, we need to reassess the situation.
Yes.
And the CS has been tasked to come up with a task force to address this issue so that they can come up with amicable solutions going forward. Yeah. Because the communities, the Kenyan community, and we are talking of over 45 million, they depend on the forests for water. These sectors, the agriculture and energy. And when we say we don't have water, even for the communities that are adjacent to the forest, the communities downstream lacked the water much before than the other communities, the upstream. Yeah. So it is important as a government, it is important as communities, as agencies that are dealing with environmental conservation, to take a step back and ask ourselves, is the catchment the only place where we can produce timber, or we have other alternatives, so that we leave the water catchments to provide the ecological services they're supposed to do.
And you talk about forest cover, you say 1%, 1.5% as opposed to the required 10%. Yes. And you talked about tree cover, you said it's 7.5%. Yeah. What is the requirement?
Tree cover, we are calculating what we are counting what we have planted on the farms and also in public spaces. But when we talk of the forest cover, it's a canopy that supports biodiversity, that supplies water, that is supporting livelihoods, and that we don't have because of the degradation that has been happening in the forests, and we need to bring all the efforts that we can bring to the table so that we can restore the landscapes that are degraded.
Charity Munyasi, as Deputy Chief Conservator Forests, I'm sure your biggest role is that conservation, ensuring that we do not lose that forest cover. Yes. A few years back, there was, I think, a government policy of you cut down one tree, you plant two.
Yes.
Yes. What happened to that? Are we still doing it? Are we still following that up, or did we lose that at some point?
Thank you. We are still doing that by ensuring that when the trees are cut, they are planted. Even for the plantation, the one we are here about, when trees are cut, we are planting others. And in fact, in Kenya now, we are planting more than we are cutting. Because when what we cut a 25 years old tree, but every year we are planting. So a tree which is being cut as about 10 generations of the same tree being planted. So for and Kenya Forest Service, when it comes to the plantation, we are planting every year. We are doing the silvicultural practices every year. That is thinning, pruning, managing this tree so that it matures when it is a quality tree. And that is continuous process. Yes. And we have a fairing plan. You don't just wake up and cut trees in here. We have a 5-year fairing plan. So it is clearly planned when to which area, which portion is being cut, which portion is being reforested in that plantation area. And it is only 136,000 hectares of our forest which is in plantation area. The rest, which is 2.45 million hectares, is natural forest. And this natural forest is where we get a lot of biodiversity, all sources of water, other non-timber forest use, soil conservation, ensuring that we have enough environmental services for this country. And in this, we also have another program for the farm and dryland forestry, where we encourage people to plant trees in their own farms, in the institutions. About the forest cover, we are at 7.2%. This is the forest cover that has been calculated scientifically using the remote sensing, satellite imagery, and not just Kenya Forest Service, all stakeholders, remote sensing, all the relevant institutions as stakeholders participated in this process, and we are doing it every 5 years. The 1.7% which people have been talking about was the gazetted forest area. The gazetted forest area has been 1.7 for a long time, but now we are at 2.59 million hectares.
Okay.
There's a difference between gazetted forest area and the forest cover.
Okay.
The forest cover is pure scientific study analysis, using all those satellite imageries, ground truthing, and all that.
And I think probably the issue was between the gazetted cover and this other, the general forest cover, because what falls under KFS? Is it just the gazetted forest?
What falls under KFS is all the mandate. We have forest inside the gazetted forest area, which is 2.59 million hectares. Then we have the outside the gazetted forest area. Now, the 7.2% is the gazetted forest area and other forests outside the gazetted forest area. And in the outside the gazetted area is where we have a lot of intervention with the communities, private forestry, commercial farm forestry, and we also have natural forests outside the government forest.
But then comes the problem, because now you said, as you said, you're planting trees probably even faster than how the trees are being cut.
The plantations.
The plantations.
Yes,
but yet we are seeing the problem we're currently experiencing. Some people may say that the biggest problem has been irregular, unlicensed logging of trees. I'm assuming you're the regulator of this licensing and logging.
Yes.
If at all you've actually vetted each license you give out, then probably the problem is with the illegal unregulated logging. How much of a problem is that?
When it was Forest Department, I agree, there was that problem. But Kenya Forest Service has streamlined the system of licensing the sawmillers. We have large sawmillers, medium sawmillers, and small sawmillers. And the licensing process is whereby the team goes to the field and all the sawmills are assessed. And the licenses are only given to those people with sawmillers. You are not given a license if you have no sawmill. Kenya Forest Service has really ensured that we have streamlined the system of licensing.
And is it working? Is it watertight?
Yes. That one I can tell you.
Would you vouch for that statement? You know, when government officials say that this is the fact of the ground, would you say that
the licensing, that one is watertight?
But what about illegal logging? Would you say that Kenya's Forest Service has been able to actually stop illegal logging of trees?
Maybe first the question is to define what illegal logging constitutes. First, let me for a moment come to the defense of KFS, because I used to be the chairman of Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company. And there was a lot of argument on this issue of KFS being able to, work on their forests, provide, streamline the logging and all these things about plantation. So I had an opportunity to meet her boss, and we were just having a chat before we came here. And that's the moment I realized there's a lot of mistruths about this thing. And that's why I'm saying, we as a country, first let's face the reality that KFS is not entirely to blame for the problem we have. And that brings me to what I said. Let's define what illegal logging constitutes. They have licensing processes, which I think work. The question is, when that guy who's been allocated a plantation gets into the forest, for example, does he take the 2 acres of trees that he has been allocated, or does he take 5 acres? Does he also cut down, in the process, some indigenous trees, especially the cedar and the podo and others that are very expensive in the market, and hide it among the trees that he has taken? Does KFS have enough staff to make sure that this doesn't happen? Is somebody on the ground colluding with a staff member of KFS? And I'm not blaming them. I think everybody is stretched. So many government departments are stretched in this country. So the question is, do we blame KFS, for example, for the drought that we have year in, year out? Or do we just accept as a country we have a problem of management, not only in KFS, so that we have even, people who are unwilling to do their part at the ground in the forest?
Because I think probably what we're wondering is, where do we direct the questions then? If at all KFS has done all it could, then where do we direct the question? Yes, as environmental conservation is not an easy thing. As you said, the problem is bigger, and probably there are staff, there are resource constraint, personnel shortages and stuff like that in government departments. It is understandable. But where do we then direct the questions? Who do we look to when it comes to this issue of actually protecting our forests? When we know KFS has done its best, we can no longer ask them any question now.
The Green Belt movement has a civic and environmental education platform that we use to identify the problems, what the causes are, and what the solutions are. And we use that platform, especially when we have a new project, we have a new initiative, and we call the stakeholders, the communities, and we take through that process. And in the morning when they come in, they have so many problems. And they believe the leadership, the local administration are to blame. They have nowhere to lay the blame on themselves. And then at the end of the day, when we come up with the solutions, they realize we all have the solutions. The only thing we haven't done, we haven't taken the right actions. We haven't owned up
as a community,
to do what we need to do. And the empowerment we do is to help communities realize that they need to know themselves to be able to take the right action. And just to respond to your question, and who do we direct the question to? We all have the answers. Yes. We have the resources. We have the capacity. And we have the legislation. We have the policies. But now we need to reassess this situation. Is the legislation being enforced? Yeah. Is the monitoring happening? Is the reporting happening right? Are we verifying what is happening? So that we can have facts. So that we stop saying it is the Kenya Forest Service, it is the communities.
It's the county government.
We all are to blame. We are talking of a life support system that is crying out for help. And we have the help for it.
And unfortunately, our time has run out. It's been eaten up by some of these live events that have been cropping up. But I'll give you each an opportunity to give your final comments. And now at least you said it is a community in general. But then that is so broad. Yes, we still need to look up to someone. Is it the political leadership? Is it county governments? Is it KFS? We appear to be all in agreement that they've done enough. But who next to lead us to this place? Yes, we can see what the Deputy President has done by banning logging. Is that the way out? Let's start with you, Charity.
Thank you. Kenya Forest Service, the new Forest Conservation and Management Act 2016, it clearly spells out how communities co-manage the forest with the Kenya Forest Service. So we no longer do it alone. We do it with the communities, through the Community Forest Association, who have a one identity, and we make forest management plans for all the forests which are managed by KVS and also forests which are managed by county governments. And this community participation, the communities, we co-manage with them, and it's a very effective tool. And we don't work with only communities alone. All stakeholders in the environment, Green Belt Movement, WWF, all other stakeholders, they are part of us. We no longer work alone. And that is why when my sister Mercy says that it is all of us, that's the truth, because it is everybody's responsibility. The issue of dryness, let's not forget about climate change. It's a reality. And in climate change, forest contributes only 18%. All the other factors are not forestry. So we are not living in an island. The climate change is affecting even Kenya. And that is why you see all this dryness. So mine is to tell the Kenyans, the rain season is just about to come. Let us plant trees. Wherever you are, make sure that you plant trees. In your farm, in your plot, everywhere, let's plant trees.
Yes, Bwana Cornelius Chipsoi, briefly.
I want to say that, number one, my opinion is I would want to suggest that we reconsider how we finance KFS, for example, so that for a start we can talk about having these trees in our forests for a very long time. And she has indicated that it takes up to 20 to 25 years before a tree is cut. And it is important whether it's standing or it's cut, it has a job to do. I would like to see the President and the Deputy President, for example, take personal charge of this process. If we agree that we have problems in how we maintain our forests, let's ban it for 10 to 15 years. 90 days is not enough. It takes a tree at least 10 years or so.
So you believe the political leadership should take charge?
I think so. I think the politicians in this country must make a decision. And I was giving examples. We don't have to wait for KFS to take or to make money from plantations. We can get the water companies, for example, you know, people who benefit directly from the rivers to finance KFS.
Okay.
And I think they would actually get more money from water companies than they will ever get from plantations.
Okay. Because of time, let's allow Mercy Wanjaka to say something, because we are running out of time.
When the new Constitution 2010 was launched, the Green Belt movement took the large chapter in the environment and made a popular fashion. And we went across the country letting people know what those two chapters mean to them. Because the land and the environment are the most areas where a lot of conflicts come from. And I think Kenya is known for very good policies and legislation. Let's make popular fashions that we can use at the grassroots, that we can use at a stakeholder level, so that people understand what their role is. But an action needs to happen right now to stop the water shortages. It won't stop until we restore these degraded landscapes. By ignoring the problem, we will not solve it.
We've ignored the problem for far too long.
Yes, yes.
Well, anyway, thank you so much, Mercy Wanjaka, Senior Program Officer, Greenbelt Movement, which is concerned with the environmental conservation. Cornelius Chipsoy, environmentalist and water sector consultant. And last but not least, Charity Munyasia, Deputy Chief Conservator, Forests, Natural Forest Management and Conservation, helping us understand what's bedeviling us with the low water levels, the depletion of forest cover, and of course that ban by the Deputy President on logging for the next 90 days. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's now take a look at what's headlining